race for that office. There are state central committee positions. There are two from Lake County. They're not just Lake County, but they're two different districts that encompass part of Lake County. That state central committee is important because it influences the state politics. And then we have, I think, 161 precincts. Is that right, Dale? Is it 157? Okay. 157 precincts in Lake County, each of which can have a central committee person. So we want to run candidates for all these positions. Where we don't have a conservative, we want to be able to have a conservative in those positions. So, Crossroads. Will we stand together as ordinary American citizens to accomplish that which is extraordinary? Will we do that? Will we step out from our comfort zone and do the things that are necessary to make a change, to make a difference? Will we do what the establishment says cannot be done? I don't think that they think we can amount to any kind of serious opposition to them. They've demonstrated that by their actions when they do things that are contrary to what we want them to do. We make phone calls, we send letters, and they say, no, we're not going to listen to you. So are you willing to get out of your comfort zone to do your part in this effort to turn back the fundamental transformation of America? So some of you, perhaps all, probably not all of you, but some of you may get the call to ask you to step up and put your name on the ballot, run for an office. It's important that we as ordinary citizens get into those positions, because then it's a lot easier to get what you want accomplished. You don't have to beg and plead for a candidate to do the right thing. So with that, we're going to go to a couple of candidate introductions. So here's what we're going to, let me explain before we start this. I know there's some other candidates here that wasn't necessarily expecting to be here up until recently, but we have two specific candidates that we've invited to speak to us tonight. We will give them the opportunity to do that. They each have 5 minutes to speak, 5 minutes to take questions, and then after that, then we will recognize any other candidates that might be here, or office holders that might be here tonight. So with that, our first candidate is Kim Laurie, who is running for county commissioner. She is the president of the Mentor 912 project. She has been heavily involved in fighting back the regionalism effort of the NEOSCC here in Northeast Ohio. So with that, I'll give you Kim Laurie.
Hi everybody. What a great crowd. As Chuck said, I am the president of the Mentor 912 project. I have been for almost a year now. And in doing so, learned a lot about NEOSCC and their regionalism efforts that not only would affect us here in Lake County, but also 11 other Northeast Ohio counties. So I've been fighting for the last year against what they're trying to do. It's at a point where they have now, I believe, spent all of their $4.5 million of grant money that they received from HUD. They are looking for more funding, and one of the sources that they are trying to get funding from are the counties that they are targeting, which means our tax dollars. So they have asked for $15,000 per per county for each of the next 3 years, I believe. And so in this fight, when I heard this news, I decided that I need to find out where are we in that process. Has Lake County been committed to spending our tax money to further these efforts? Is the vote coming up soon? I don't know. Guess who decides? The county commissioners. So my first step in the process of trying to get this information would have been to attend county commissioner meetings. However, to my dismay, they are held at 10 a.m. on Thursday mornings, and like most people, I work. So I cannot attend those meetings, unfortunately. So then the next step in the process was to start reviewing meeting minutes from the commissioners' meetings. If I can't be there in person, I will go ahead and look up their minutes and see what information I can find. I will tell you very little. I went through every single set of minutes for the entire year of 2013. I intend to go back farther, but as you can imagine, it takes some time. These meetings are pretty much every single week, so it was roughly 56 sets of minutes. Not a single word about NEOSCC. However, I did find some other information that was disturbing. First of all, if you've never been to a meeting or never looked at the minutes, essentially most of what they do is review some resolutions, which are, how are we going to spend our tax money. They vote on it and move on. I estimated approximately 10 resolutions every single week that cross their desk. And for every single resolution, every single week, every single commissioner voted yes, unanimously, with hardly any discussion. There were only a few where there was any kind of notes about the resolution, and most of the time it wasn't discussion or it wasn't, a question about it. It was more or less a presentation of what this thing is and why we should be supporting it. So that was very disturbing. The other thing I noticed is at the end of every single meeting, the commissioners go into what's called an executive session. Anything that the commissioners discuss and decide on is supposed to be done in public view. Okay, that's why they have the commissioners' meetings in the first place. That's why they have the minutes posted for the public to review. However, there are certain topics, there are 3, that the commissioners are allowed to go behind closed doors to discuss, and they are things that you would want, to be kept confidential. For example, if the county is in negotiations for real estate, you wouldn't want the other party to find out, what your position is. So they are allowed to go behind closed doors for that. Another topic is personnel issues. So if you're having, some issues with one of the county employees, you don't necessarily want that to be public. They are allowed to go behind closed doors to discuss these things. What I was noticing is that in every single week, they had these executive sessions. And so the question is, are they having these executive sessions because there really is that much to talk about behind closed doors? Maybe, it's a big county, there's a lot going on. Or are they using this as an excuse to discuss some of these things that are not being discussed in public to go ahead and talk about it behind closed doors? And there's no way that we are ever going to be able to find that out unless we have somebody in that position who is allowed to be in those executive session meetings to then be able to verify one way or the other if they are using those appropriately or not. So those are the major things that I learned from reviewing the minutes. And so I started thinking, okay, so what's the solution to all of these issues? Well, one solution would be to find a candidate who would be able to stand for us, is knowledgeable about regionalism enough that they would be able to recognize the threat when it appears before them. A lot of times it comes in the guise of collaboration, which collaboration is great, but there is a distinct difference between collaboration and regionalism, and these people in these offices need to know what that difference is, okay? So I started realizing that, unfortunately, I can't trust that any of the candidates know this well enough, that they would be able to watch out for these threats for us. And so I ended up determining that the best person for that position would be myself, because I trust myself. I know what I know, okay? And I'm not afraid to speak up, as a lot of you know. And I also will happily share any information which is supposed to be public knowledge with you. If I can't convince the commissioners to go ahead and post it on their website, I